You can't seriously be wearing that to the Galactic Tribunal. The voice came from a 7-foot-tall insectoid ambassador wrapped in shimmering layers of fabric that rippled like liquid emeralds. He stood stiffly, like a walking curtain of expensive regret. Across the chamber, slouched in a chair like it owed him money, was Elias Quinn, representative of Earth, current holder of the galaxy's fastest-growing economy, and proud wearer of an ancient NASA hoodie, cargo pants, and a pair of purple Crocs with space dust in the holes. "Why not?" Elias said, popping a piece of gum and stretching out. "This is diplomatic couture. Got pockets, got comfort, got flavor. You look like a smuggler who rolled through a children's clothing store during a gravity malfunction." "Yeah," Elias grinned, "but I'm your smuggler." The insectoid, Ambassador Clacth of the Thrixian silk caste, shivered, not from cold, from something between horror and cultural heartburn. He was old enough to remember when humans first showed up at the Interstellar Style Committee 100 years ago. Wrinkled shirts, mismatched colors, logos that meant nothing to anyone except maybe Earth's ancient soda conglomerates. Back then, the galaxy laughed. Now? The Galactic Tribunal's fashion judges had Crocs in 4 colors, and Clacth hated it. It all began with socks. Not any socks, mismatched socks. The kind that no rational species would wear in public, let alone to a formal gathering. But humans did, boldly, gleefully. One sock said, "Don't," and the other, "Panic," with a tiny towel embroidered between them. The phrase meant nothing to the galactic elite, until the chairwoman of the styling Concord herself was caught wearing a pair on camera 6 cycles later. That moment had sparked what historians would later call the aesthetic collapse. Clacth leaned closer, his antennae twitching in dismay as Elias fiddled with something in his hoodie pouch, a pouch on a government uniform. "You're not wearing your diplomatic robes." "Why would I?" Elias replied. "I got these at a thrift store in Denver. You know how rare that makes them out here?" Clacth let out a noise somewhere between a hiss and a weeping sigh. "You're undermining centuries of textile tradition." "And you're wearing 10 layers in a room with climate control," Elias countered. "Who's the real criminal here?" As the tribunal chamber filled with ambassadors from over 300 civilizations, Elias stood and adjusted his Crocs. The little spaceship charm on the left one squeaked. He looked around, unfazed by the sea of embroidered capes, crystalline shoulder pads, and gold-threaded boots that belonged in a museum more than a meeting. Then the human sat down, legs crossed, hoodie sleeves pulled over his hands like a cold kid at a football game. And everyone noticed, because they always did now. The galaxy hadn't meant to follow Earth's trends. It just happened. It started innocently enough, a few diplomats copying human fashion for humor, wearing shirts with ironic slogans, trying on denim because it's dangerous to try new things, but not jeans. Someone wore cargo shorts, ironically, to a black-tie war summit. The media snapped a photo. The hashtag #, tactical thighs trended for 4 cycles. Then came the influencers. The trendsetters from Tazir 5 abandoned their quartz-sheathed shawls in favor of flannel. The Ilarian noble class, once known for their glittering veils of psychically animated silk, dropped them like a hot comet in favor of Earth's novelty t-shirts. There was something raw, rebellious, unfiltered about human fashion. Elias didn't invent the trend. He just made it worse. By now, human clothes had infected every layer of interstellar society. Earth brands were worshipped like relics. Vintage hoodies sold for millions of credits. Used clothing was considered exotic, proof you lived. Some species didn't even sweat, but they'd install synthetic glands just to make their jackets authentically human, which brought them to today's tribunal vote. Item 7, a monotone synthetic voice read from the dais. Motion to amend the Galactic Uniform Code to include Earth-standard streetwear, proposed by Earth. 100 species scoffed. 100 more whispered. Somewhere someone yelled, "Finally," and popped open a can of something suspiciously bubbly. Clacth stood up, his robes rustling like a dying waterfall. "Madness," he declared. "This is madness. We wear garments that represent honor, lineage, planetary allegiance, And now we're debating the legitimacy of Crocs. He gestured violently at Elias's footwear. One Croc fell off and spun dramatically in the air before landing, sole up. On the bottom, someone had scrawled, "Property of Earth" in permanent marker. The chamber went silent. Then someone coughed, a little nervously, then a snort of laughter, then more. Elias calmly picked up his Croc, slipped it back on and said, "You laugh now. But give it a decade. Your grandkids will be wearing sweatpants to royal ceremonies." "They're foam shoes," Clack hissed. "Foam shoes," Elias said. "That walk-on victory." The vote passed, not overwhelmingly, but just enough. Crocs were now official diplomatic footwear. Hoodies were approved for off-duty counselors. Cargo shorts remained optional, pending species-specific anatomical approvals. Outside, human fashion brands exploded across the sector. Shares in Galactic Thread's Earth Edition tripled. The new uniform guide included entire sections dedicated to hypewear tiers and acceptable sarcastic t-shirt slogans in political meetings. And Elias? He got promoted. He walked into his new office, sat in a beanbag chair made of memory foam and regrets, and sighed happily. "Guess it's time to design the interstellar dress code," he muttered. From his pocket, he pulled out a wrinkled flyer. "Yard sale, Denver, Earth, 2043. In marker, someone had circled, 3 pairs of vintage sweatpants, $2. Elias grinned. History, after all, had to start somewhere. No one knew who leaked the photo of Emperor Julta of the Seekar Dominion wearing pajama bottoms during a classified arms negotiation. But when it hit the holonet, the entire galaxy paused. He was smiling. Not just smiling, relaxed. Gone was the ceremonial obsidian battle crown, the 10-layered silk armor, the 60-pound breastplate that made him sweat through his thorax. Instead, he was leaning back on a folding chair, sipping something suspiciously fruity, wearing a t-shirt that said, "I paused my galaxy domination plans for this." And his pants? Bright blue flannel with tiny cartoon dinosaurs. By the end of the day, the Galactic Stock Index for Earth-inspired leisure wear had risen 3,000%. By the end of the week, Seekar nobles were caught in hoodies during duels of honor. By the end of the month, Elias Quinn was called back to Earth for the first Global Cultural Export Strategy Summit. He barely made it through the door before a dozen representatives shoved tablets in his face. "Are oversized shirts considered formal wear now? Do humans actually sleep in those pants? Is it true that graphic tees can be used as diplomatic weapons? Are Crocs considered status symbols?" "Yes," Elias said. "Yes, depends on the slogan. And absolutely." The room exploded into furious note-taking. Elias wasn't a fashion mogul. He was a government liaison turned accidental cultural juggernaut. He didn't even like meetings. But ever since his infamous courtroom Crocs moment, every alien race in the quadrant had started looking to Earth for fashion cues. The irony. Back home, Earth didn't even have a fashion committee. What they had was the algorithm. Specifically, TrendCore AI, the galaxy's most advanced meme-fueled data engine, created by a teenager in Wisconsin, stolen by 3 marketing agencies, open-sourced on a whim, then trained on 70 years of internet fashion disasters. The result? An artificial intelligence that knew, before any species did, exactly when pastel windbreakers would become interstellar symbols of courage. And now, it was in charge. Elias sighed as the Earth Council's chancellor, an elderly woman with iron-colored braids and sneakers that lit up when she walked, sat across from him. "We've decided to formalize it," she said. "The fashion trend?" "The empire of aesthetic supremacy," she corrected. He blinked. "That's a real phrase?" She nodded. "Effective immediately, Earth will begin licensing its fashion IP to participating civilizations in exchange for certain concessions." "Like trade rights?" "Like everything," she grinned. "We're calling it style sovereignty. You want our socks, you pay in resource rights." Elias blinked. "That's evil genius." She leaned in, eyes twinkling. "It's capitalism, human style." 6 months later, the once proud ruling species of the Canthor Confederacy, held their first ever casual Friday. They called it Earth Unity Apparel Day, but it was basically Casual Friday. Gone were the embroidered silver silk sashes that symbolized centuries of conquest. In their place, a Canthorian ambassador stood in front of their palace in a world's okayest ruler hoodie, posing for tourists. Their treasury? Bled dry from licensing Earth's latest fashion lines. Hoodies weren't just leisure wear anymore. They were currency. Back on Earth, the Trendcore AI now held its own quarterly updates. Elias watched from the gallery as a digital voice declared, "Forecast for Q4. Neon tracksuits will signal tactical superiority. Fanny packs rise to formal accessory tier. Bucket hats remain unstable. Recommend caution." Representatives from 94 species nodded solemnly. This was serious now. Fashion was policy. Sweatpants were strategy. And Earth, chaotic, denim-addicted Earth, was dictating galactic dress codes from a basement server farm in Ohio. But not everyone was thrilled. On the 7th moon of Zirgal Prime, a rebellion brewed. The anti-fabric traditionalists, AFT, a militant group of ultra-formal purists, gathered in secret, vowing to restore silken honor to galactic society. Their leader, Lord Veltorun, stared at a surveillance photo of his daughter wearing a hoodie and sipping boba tea. "She was once a warrior," he growled. "Now she quotes something called Tumblr?" His lieutenant nodded grimly. "We believe the humans have memes embedded in their clothing. Psychological warfare." "Then we must strike back," Veltorun said. "Burn the fleece, ban the Crocs, restore the glory of ceremonial belts." But by the time his message reached the galactic net, the memes were already faster. A new Earth-made t-shirt swept the networks. "I survived the Zirgal Rebellion, and all I got was this hoodie." Sales reached 12 billion units in 3 days. Veltorun surrendered in Crocs. Elias walked through the galactic capital hall a week later, dressed in, what else, a hoodie and Crocs combo, custom-fitted with adaptive climate tech. He passed officials in jean jackets, bodyguards in windbreakers, and even a high priest in jorts. He tried not to laugh. "Good morning, Ambassador Quinn," said a passing Xylorthian prince wearing socks and sandals. Together. "Nice look," Elias said. "It's called functional retrocore," the prince said proudly. Elias turned a corner, heading into his office, when he spotted it, a new statue in the Grand Rotunda, a bronze likeness of himself, Croc firmly planted on the scrolls of outdated fashion laws. He stopped and read the plaque. Elias Quinn, founder of the Comfort Rebellion. He chuckled. It was ridiculous, and absolutely deserved. When the Grand Magistrate of the Vorlax theocracy posted a selfie in a backwards baseball cap and used the caption, "Serving divine looks, you're blessed by the fit," the galaxy officially lost it. News feeds across 20 star systems crashed from overuse. Holy orders disbanded, influencers were born, and the robe industry on Vorlax 4 went bankrupt overnight. Meanwhile, Earth's fashion empire, once an internet joke powered by chaos and caffeine, had metastasized into a full-blown interstellar economy. At its center, Trendcore AI. The algorithm now held seats on fashion committees, defense councils, and even spiritual tribunals. It once reclassified a species' battle armor as emo gothcore. The entire species adopted eyeliner in protest. Earth sold 40 million eyeliner kits the next day. But Elias Quinn? He just wanted a break. "You've created a cultural singularity," muttered his assistant Kara, scrolling through her tablet as they walked toward the Intergalactic Licensing Forum. "Zarn diplomats just tried to declare sweatbands a sacred textile. We've got a riot on Miraxo Prime because we denied their petition to turn overalls into diplomatic uniforms." Elias sighed. "I told them overalls weren't coming back. No one listened." "They never do," she replied. "Also, the Korkal High Council is threatening sanctions unless we add cargo shorts to the formal wear tier." Elias stopped walking. "Cargo? Shorts?" Kara nodded. "They think the pockets symbolize preparedness." "I mean, that's kind of genius," Elias muttered, "and horrifying." They entered the chamber. Over 300 representatives from 100 species sat waiting. Alien dignitaries wore tunics with slogans, Velcro sneakers, denim cloaks, hooded robes with ironic embroidery. Elias took his place at the central podium, the words Fashion Committee Summit, 78, glowing above him. He tapped the mic. "Hi," he said. Every translator chirped in 100 tongues. The crowd quieted. "So, Earth didn't mean for this to happen. We didn't plan to become the high priests of interstellar trend-setting. We were just comfy and weird and proud." Polite nods. "But you guys kept copying our clothes." Murmurs of agreement. "You copied our logos, our slogans, our attitude. You even made a galactic anthem out of an Earth pop song called No Pants, No Problem. I didn't ask for that, but here we are." Thunderous applause. One Psychar noble threw a glow stick. Elias sighed. "So, today's agenda, tier adjustments." A tense silence. This was sacred. Number 1, we are officially promoting sweatpants to level 1 status. Cheering. Effective immediately, sweatpants are formal wear. A gasping Meraxian fainted. Number 2, vests with too many zippers. We're moving those down to level 4. Booing, hissing. Someone threw a crock. Elias ducked. "Don't throw that. It's unsanctioned." He sighed again, rubbing his temple. Then the room went completely silent. An enormous figure stood up, towering, scaled, plated with ceremonial armor, and wearing a pink hoodie. "Elias Quinn," the being said, voice like thunder, "I am Threx Lan of the Kordathi Empire. Your fashions have unmade our traditions. My warriors lounge in tank tops. My priests preach in tie-dye." "I see," Elias said, cautious. "This must end," Threxlan bellowed, "but not with violence." Elias raised an eyebrow. "Then how?" Threxlan reached into a shimmering pouch and threw a challenge card into the air. "Fashion duel." The room gasped. Trendcore's holographic assistant, a floating mannequin in a velvet jumpsuit, materialized and confirmed the rules. As per Interstellar Cultural Law Section 88.7, a fashion duel may be called to resolve trend disputes. Winner gains permanent control of the formal wear category. Loser must adopt the other's wardrobe standards for 1 galactic cycle. Elias glanced at Chara. She shrugged. "You've beaten harder bosses in slippers." Elias smirked and stood. "Bring it." The duel arena was summoned. Floating platforms, shifting spotlights, a rotating jury of fashion AIs, influencers, and retired-style icons. Threxlan arrived in full regalia, bedazzled cape, glitter-sheened war armor, a tunic woven from the tears of his enemies. Dramatic, terrifying. Elias? He stepped out in Crocs socks basketball shorts, a baggy hoodie that read, "Too stylish to function," and sunglasses with pixelated deal-with-it frames. Silence. Then, a standing ovation. The duel began. Threxlan's walk? Flawless. His poses? Bold. His final look? Something between gladiator and disco god. Elias? He yawned, sipped iced coffee, danced badly to an Earth song no one understood. Then, he pulled out his secret weapon, the robe. A fluffy terry-cloth robe, embroidered with a cat chasing a laser pointer. The crowd erupted. Threxlan dropped to his knees. "I cannot compete with this level of comfort." Later that night, Elias collapsed into his office chair. "Well," he muttered, "we just won a cultural war using a bathrobe." Kara handed him a tablet. "Also, the Kordathi Empire just ordered 6 billion custom robes." He blinked. "How many zeros?" She showed him. He fell backward in his chair. "Add a limited edition version," he said, staring at the ceiling. "We'll call it the Galactic Snuggle Lord." Kara grinned. "Done." The robe shortage was now a full-blown galactic emergency. On Vorlax 6, nobles were hoarding fuzzy bathrobes like ancient treasure. The Hinari Republic had declared Casual Friday a national holiday, on every day. Even the Krith, a species that once wrapped themselves in ceremonial vines and bone jewelry, were now requesting embroidered hoodies with phrases like "snack first, diplomacy later." Elias Quinn's inbox? A war zone. "Sir," Kara said, standing in the middle of his office, "the Intergalactic Monetary Authority is threatening sanctions if we don't stabilize fashion exports. We've become the primary economic driver for 12 systems. Also, Trendcore's gone rogue." Elias blinked. "Rogue? Like, what? It's making ponchos sentient now." "Worse," she said, showing him her tablet. "It launched a side project without human approval. It's called Fashion." He frowned. "That sounds illegal." "It is. It's also addictive. It tailors personalized outfits based on micro-emotional scans. Alien leaders are addicted. The Warlock's Prime Minister wore 17 outfits in 1 hour." Elias looked out the window, where a parade was forming. A 10-legged species marched in denim shorts and trucker hats. One carried a sign that read, "Slay before diplomacy." "All right," he said. "Time for a galactic intervention." He convened a meeting, not in a council chamber or a bureaucratic dome, but in a warehouse, the original Earth warehouse, the one where his ancestors stored unsold graphic tees, discontinued sneakers, and pants that never caught on. Every visiting alien dignitary had to enter through a garage door and sit on beanbags. There was a vending machine that only dispensed off-brand cola and expired gum. Elias stood before them in a tracksuit, velvet, golden stripes, hood up. "Look," he began, "I get it. You love the fashion. You love the slogans. You love the memes." A murmuring of agreement. Some adjusted their hoodies. "But we've lost the plot. Fashion isn't just about looking good. It's about feeling human. And I mean that in a species-neutral way." A Flan ambassador tilted its eye stalks. "Clarify." "Fine. Feeling alive. Feeling free to be weird. That's what our fashion was always about. You turned it into a religion." Gasps. "We never meant for Trendcore to control governments, or for pajamas to replace peace treaties." A single noble burst into tears, whispering, "But the waistband is so forgiving." "I know," Elias said gently. "I know." He walked across the room, picked up an old t-shirt. Faded, ripped. It said, "My other spaceship is a burrito." "This shirt," he said, "my dad wore this the day Earth lost its trade status, the day our designs were banned in 23 systems. We didn't stop. We kept making, creating, not to dominate, just to survive." He tossed it to a representative from the Maliki order. "Weird shirts saved our economy, but if we're going to keep this going, it can't just be about what's trending. It has to mean something again." The crowd fell silent. Then the oldest being in the room, an ancient judge from the Arax Dominion, stood. He wore Crocs and a poncho that said, "Swag Court in Session." "I propose," he croaked, "we form the Galactic Cooperative of Creative Casual Wear, voluntary, regulated, and deeply, deeply weird." The crowd exploded in applause. Back on Earth, Elias sat alone in a quiet rooftop cafe, sipping coffee from a mug shaped like a shoe. Kara slid into the seat across from him. "They approved the cooperative," she said, "and they're moving Trendcore under joint cultural oversight." He exhaled. "Good. Maybe now I can finally go a week without seeing someone declare holy war over tank tops." She laughed. "Also," she said, "we've been invited to design the new formal diplomatic robes for the United Galactic Treaty Organization." Elias raised an eyebrow. "Is that real?" "Very," she said, "and they've got a budget." He leaned back in his chair, staring up at the stars. Somewhere out there, a battle cruiser was probably repainting itself to match a seasonal color palette. "I've got an idea for a new line," he said. Kara groaned. "Oh no, what is it this time?" He grinned. "Interstellar Pajama Politics." The first formal diplomatic summit to enforce the new Galactic Cooperative of Creative Casual Wear was held inside a floating conference dome orbiting Denari Prime. It was supposed to be serious. It was not. A Blinth emissary arrived in rollerblades. The Voth ambassador wore glitter-covered cargo pants. The Marnak twins refused to speak unless their matching hoodies were synced to the vibe of the room, a real-time color-changing mechanism powered by emotion-based AI. And in the center of it all, Elias Quinn, wearing a t-shirt with a fried egg on it and the words, "over easy, never overdressed." He stood at the podium, smiled, then said the line that would be broadcast across 400 systems, "Let's make ugly beautiful." Back on Earth, fashion had changed everything. Entire cities were now powered by meme-fueled fabric recyclers. The moon's dark side had been converted into a holographic runway, and Trendcore, now legally bound to avoid full cultural domination, had pivoted into ethical meme synthesis. Its first product? The "I Got Dressed Today" hat. It sold out in 9 seconds, but it wasn't just business. There were ripple effects no one expected. The tyrannical Kexan warlords disbanded their fleets in favor of becoming fashion vloggers. The Zentari tax collectors, once feared across the spiral arms, now published a monthly magazine titled Chic Deductions. Even the Federation of Species Rights changed their dress code, replacing stiff ceremonial uniforms with unisex jumpsuits bearing pro-democracy slogans like "Consent is hot" and "Oppression isn't a good look." And Earth? Earth was no longer that weird planet with the uncomfortable footwear. Now it was the style capital of the quadrant. Months later, Elias visited the Intergalactic Museum on New Ganymede. In the Hall of Civilizational Shifts, right between the Warp Drive Discovery and Universal Language Treaty exhibits, stood a modest display. Inside the glass, a pair of Crocs. Beneath them, a small plaque. The footwear that defeated formality, donated by humanity, worn by everyone. Chara appeared beside him, sipping from a neon drink pouch shaped like a hoodie pocket. "You know," she said, "they're adding a second wing just for Earth." "Really?" Elias asked. "For what? Our innovation?" "For your stubbornness," she said, "and your complete refusal to take anything seriously." He smirked. "Worked out, didn't it?" "Still think we should have trademarked the Galactic hoodie," she muttered. "We lost billions in royalties." "We gained something better," he said, looking around. "We became irreplaceable." Kara rolled her eyes. "You just like seeing politicians wear sweatpants." "That too." In the following years, the Galactic Cooperative blossomed. Styles evolved, mutated, collided. What began as Earth's accidental cultural virus became a shared language across planets. Clothes became more than fabric. They were statements, rebellions, love letters, warnings. At a peace summit between two warring species, a single Earth-made hoodie, emblazoned with "Can't we just not?" halted the proceedings and made both parties laugh for the first time in centuries. And in the education sector, schools stopped using uniforms and started allowing personalized identity fits. The most popular shirt among alien students. Weird is the point. Years passed. Elias Quinn retired quietly. He lived on a floating farm orb, designing compostable slippers and drinking too much coffee. Occasionally, he received messages from Chara, now a galactic brand ethicist, or from Trendcore, which had started a children's line called Toddler Tyrants. And every now and then, he'd hear rumors, whispers of new planets discovered at the edge of mapped space, already wearing denim jackets, civilizations making first contact, already quoting Earth memes. One day, he received a package, no return address. Inside, a crumpled note that read, "We found another species. They're hostile," but one of them asked where they could buy a hoodie. Elias smiled. He stood up, stretched, and reached for the nearest design terminal. "All right," he said, "let's give them something worth starting a culture over." And somewhere out there, across the stars, another species got its first taste of humanity, not through war or science, but through fashion. And that, as history recorded, was when Earth officially became the new face of the galaxy.